Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals. I'm Randall Carlisle, my co-host Rachel Santizo. And Rachel, what's really cool about Odyssey House Journals is when people speak, we listen. Our most recent episode, we featured a guy who had 11 DUIs, 3 felonies, and he avoided 9 years in prison by going to long-term treatment and is now successful in the community. Some of our responses were, this guy should be arrested and go to prison, right, after 11 DUIs in various communities. So we have 2 cops here to arrest him. Is that why they're here?
Absolutely, that is exactly why they're here.
Great. We're gonna track down the guy. You guys brought handcuffs, right?
Actually, they're here to arrest you.
Oh, well, I deserve to have been arrested many times. Can you introduce us to our guests?
Sure, I would love to. So this is Glenn and Dave, and I met Dave. Dave walked into the doors of FTR out in Utah County, and I haven't gotten rid of him since. And what I mean by that is that...
Not because you're in trouble.
Right, no. And what I mean by that is that they are incredible. Like, I am the #1 fan of Orem PD. They show up, they support, they're all about the resources, and they truly care. And so these 2 gentlemen helped me change a narrative of us versus them type thing. And so I'm so honored that they are here today.
And people watch this all over the world. Believe it or not, she has a boyfriend in Russia who watches every time. So we should explain that Orem is a community south of Salt Lake City. In a different county, 35 miles, 30 miles from Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
So, and it's a smaller community than Salt Lake City, but it's one of the fastest growing areas in the country.
Yes.
So, and you guys are part of a mental health unit, right?
Correct.
What does that mean? Because Rachel described an us versus them mentality with people dealing with addiction, which is what we're associated with. So what does that entail?
What does that entail? First off, let me put a plug in for Fit to Recover because they're awesome. They join us, they've come to our events, they support us. We can't get rid of them, I think is the problem. I've worked out with Rachel. You want a good workout? She's going to kick your butt. I'm sorry, she's going to.
She's in good shape.
She is. So
and
for them. And it's been a lot of fun.
Let me interrupt for a sec. Fit to Recover, just for those of you who don't know, is an organization. It started out as Utah's only sober gym, and it's growing really fast around the state, and tons of people who are in recovery come to Fit to Recover thinking physical fitness is an important part of recovery. So I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're good. So, yep, and I'm going to put another plug too, that I'm a crier, and Sarge knows here that I'm a crier, and I'm going to try my best not to cry today.
So mental health. Kleenex, I didn't bring them in.
Mental health, what do? We are a mental health team. There's 2 detectives, there's a victim's advocate, there's the sergeant, and some other individuals that work with us. So we reach out to individuals who suffer whatever illness they may have, whether that's depression, and we have mental health concerns, whether that's a diagnosis of sorts, like maybe we've got people with bipolar or borderline personality or whatever the case. Anything that drives somebody to have an episode where they feel like taking their life or where they feel like harming themselves or harming others, anything along those lines, our job is to reach out to these individuals, get them in touch with people that can help. A lot of times that's part of the problem, is they don't know where to go. Right. They don't know who to reach out to, who to help. A lot of other stuff that we do too with Orem as well is special needs individuals. So there's a lot of autism, there's a lot of, especially nowadays, right? So we have different things that we do, different responses, so that we can get, again, resources to these individuals. Maybe parents just don't know, right? We're the lifeline. They call us. There's a crisis. They don't know what to do. They're calling us. We're showing up. We're always going to show up. And so our job is to try to get these individuals directed to someone, somewhere that can help. And we have a large array of different people that we work with, and all of that. So, and those special needs too, they include elderly folks, right? We've got a lot of dementia out there. And so we come up with these different responses and plans on how do we help these individuals, not just with us, because we're mental health, but as a department too, with all of our patrol officers as well.
how would you deal specifically, since this podcast deals with addiction and recovery, how would you deal with somebody who was, like, say you come across somebody who seems to be high or strung out on say meth or heroin? How would you deal with that? I mean, the first inclination is to arrest somebody, is what it used to be, right?
Right.
So,
And like Rachel said too, we're trying to change that a little bit. Because what does the arrest do? Now, arrests are good. I'm not going to say they're not, right? Because now we get an individual off the street, away from the drugs, away from the substance, whether that's in the jail or incarcerated for a period of time. And then we try to get back out in touch with them. And honestly, a lot of the areas that we try, some people just don't want the help. And that's the hard part. How do we get a mindset change for that individual to want the help? There's been plenty of houses.
We ask that question all the time.
Right. It comes to the individual, but our job is to get in touch with them and tell them that there's hope, that there's somewhere to go, that there's people who understand, that have lived it, that have been in it, that have walked that life, and they're there to help you without judgment, without anything other than the simplicity of caring. And so, yeah, we've reached out. I've had individuals, we take them to the hospital because they've attempted to overdose on whatever substance that was. I go back out, I meet with them, and I say, hey, we have a great place, Fit to Recover, and they get it, and you can go there, but you got to go. If I got to drive you there, I'll drive you there.
Really?
Whatever the case, I've offered people rides numerous times to get them to go, because going is an addiction. I'm addicted. I went once, I'm going again, right? One time, because
Rachel,
you get
you're
there,
addicting people.
this environment
Thank you.
is amazing. And once you get there and these people can see that there's something else, and you can fill that void, that's where it starts. Then the journey starts.
Have both of you been to Fit to Recover?
I have not yet, so I haven't.
Well, you need it more than he
I know,
does.
I do. Look at me.
Come on,
I know.
jeez.
So no,
take
I haven't been able to go down and make a workout yet. I've met Rachel, dealt with her on our PR side at some of our events and different things. I've referred several people down to Fit to Recover, and I think the big thing for me is, as us as a mental health unit, is we take a little bit different look at someone. There is, the criminal side of stuff, but there's also the human side, and so if we can get in touch with that human side and help them in any way, we'll try to do it. So
I'm going to ask both of you, why do you do what you do?
Yeah, wouldn't it be easier just to slap some
Yeah.
handcuffs on it, take somebody to
Yeah.
jail and write the report and say, we're done?
And move on.
Yeah.
There's so much care from you guys.
Yeah.
Why?
That I don't know. That's the question. Why do you want to be a cop? I don't know. I don't have a great answer other than I care, and it seems to be what I do. It seems to be what I'm good at. I don't know why I'm good at that. You can ask family and friends, and they're like, he's going to say he's good at talking. Well, no, he's not. He's quiet. He sits at his home. He doesn't want to do anything all day. People need help, and they need to know that people care, and I care. How that came about, I don't know. I've been in the mental health field for a long time, and it just draws me back. So I'm probably never going to leave it.
Good.
Rachel brought up the fact, and this is going to be a slow process, and kudos to you guys because you care and you're trying to change the image of policing to more for caring, not just arresting people. And people in the addiction community still look upon you guys as like the enemy. And so what you're doing is going to be a slow process, don't you think? But it's having impact.
yeah, I think I've been in law enforcement for 17 years, and I think I have a little bit different view on. I try to look at the human side of people, and I have family members who've been had addiction problems and stuff like that, and so I think that everybody has, and so looking at that from that aspect, I've had, females from when I was a 2-year officer come up and say, you'll never know the change you made in my life.
Wow.
And I'll say, I don't even know who you are. And they'll say, no, one time at a party you came in and you guys were busting a party and you pulled me aside and you told me, hey, look, you're better than this. You started me off on the right path. And so that to me is seeing the change in people, and seeing them go from the lowest of the low, to begging for money on the side of the street for their addiction problems to, running a business. We actually work with a company in Orem. The business owners have a history of drug addiction, and they are some of the coolest guys I've ever met. And they are 100% pro-police now. They've been in jail. They've been, they've done their routes through stuff, but to see them change from addicts all the way to successful business owners is just, it's amazing. It's amazing.
People aren't the drugs that control them. People aren't the mental episode that they're going through. People aren't psychotic because they're in a psychotic break. People are people. And if we can see them as such, that's when we can start to help. And hopefully they can feel it from us, because I'm not looking at you for the crime that you committed. I'm not looking at you for the substance that you're on. I'm looking at you as a person. You are a person. You're human. We all have struggles. We all have things. But if we can get past those and see beyond what that outer wall looks like and get inside, that's when we can start touching people and helping.
We try to push that in Odyssey all the time, that you are not your addiction. You're a human being deep down inside, and like if you had domestic incidents with your family or something while you were high, that's not really who you really are. I'm glad you guys see through that. It's not just a bad person, it's a person with problems.
Right.
That's tough to, when you guys must be out on calls, that must be a tough call to make. I mean, do they call you, say in somebody attempting to die by suicide or something like, do they call you out? How do you get called out? And what do you wear when you go out? Do you wear uniforms or plain clothes?
Most of the time I'm in uniform. We can dress like we are, so it's a soft uniform. We're upstairs. We're not always outside. Even outside, it's fine. When the calls come in, patrol take most of the calls. They're going to be the ones arriving on scene first, and they train for that. We have trainings for that. They're not just walking in blind and whatever. They'll call me. I get plenty of phone calls throughout the day from patrol. Hey, what do you think about this? Hey, what do you think about this thing that's going on? Or can you come out? Can you come talk to this individual and get a different perspective? Because we see things, in my mind, a little bit different. I think we have to, than just your standard, oh, I'm going to go deal with this guy again today. No, we're going to go try to keep breaking down that barrier to see what it is they're going through, so we can start getting them some help. Most of the time the calls come in through dispatch, and then we go from there.
You guys also do, what I notice about you guys is you do a lot of community events. Like you do a lot for like my grandson's on the spectrum, so I've supported that. You also do reading in the park. Like you guys go out and do a lot of events. Why are these events important? Why do you do that?
I think the outreach programs are community-oriented policing, and that's my title, is the sergeant over community-oriented policing. Is really about the community. It's getting out there among the citizens and letting them see the fun side, or the softer side,
the human
side of the police officers. We have one officer who's a Polynesian guy, and he's 6'4" and 200 and something pounds, and
a linebacker at BYU.
Yeah, and to see him play volleyball, with a bunch of kids, or to pick up a child, after a house fire or something, and to see that's the human aspect of, I think it's important for the public to see that. And so the more outreach we can do, the more set up, it may sound stupid, but set up a canopy and a table and chairs and hand out some stickers or hand out some little squishy toys or something, anything to get the kids, hey, climb in my cop car and look at it and feel it and see how it is, and see where I have a radar and all this stuff, and to allow them to see the human aspect that, you get into my patrol vehicle. When I had one, I don't have one anymore, but when you get into my patrol vehicle, there's a picture of my family there. And that's important for them to see that you're just like me. The only difference is you have a different job than what I do. And I think that's what for a time, I think it's getting better, but for a time, I think there was a big disconnect between law enforcement and their communities. And I think law enforcement in general is making a big leap to try to patch those lines of communication, but we're doing everything we can on our side. I mean, we have so many events that we do every year, and we're doing new ones all the time. We're doing one in October that's called Faith in Blue. It's a nationwide one, and where we meet with faith-based leaders, and we're going to hit different church organizations and groups. We're going to come in uniform, and we're going to attend their church services in uniform, and we're also doing a barbecue, and we're going to invite every person of every faith to come and hang out and play games, and I think to in order for them to see us as it helps my officers as well to see them as humans, but it also helps them to see us as humans, and maybe if I can make that connection at a tent in a carnival, one day shaking hands, and then the next day I go to their house because they're holding the gun to their head, maybe they'll recognize me, and I'll be able to break that barrier and be able to save someone. So I think that's kind of the whole. We're all together. Everybody's together, and we need to rely upon each other.
That's a beautiful philosophy. Do you think, and you said you think things are, because for a while, things were pretty dicey between the public and the police. You think things are improving?
I think they are. I mean, we come from a smaller community, 100,000 people, and we've had a really good relationship all the time with the community. But I think we're making strides to make it even stronger. But I think even your larger agencies across the nation, like this Faith in Blue thing, the reason that we jumped into it is because New York City is going to do it, and that's huge. To see these big agencies reach out and try to reach out to their communities and have a little bit of that human aspect come through. I think it will pay off in dividends down the road. Not only maybe some guy's ticked off and he wants to punch the cop that's trying to arrest him, but he turns around and he sees him and he recognizes him, and now we don't have a fight.
I saw you in church last Sunday.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, we had a few officers show up at a barbecue last week, and the pastor happens to be our chaplain, and the people at the barbecue got all nervous because here comes 6 police officers, and they're coming here to arrest someone. Who are they going to arrest? And everybody's starting to kind of get fidgety, and he says, no, they're just coming to eat lunch. They're just coming to eat with you guys. So to be able to have that interaction is important.
I think I've got to take responsibility for this as well. I think the media is partially to blame for the rift between the public and the police, because, for instance, and for those of you who don't know, I worked in TV for like 40 years, and you put yourself in our position. We weren't putting ourselves in your position, but let's say there's an incident in one city where police officers shoot and kill somebody who's fleeing from them, who ends up to be on the autism spectrum or something like that, versus you guys at a community fair handing out squishy toys. Obviously, the media is going to play up the episode where the police shot and killed somebody.
Sure.
And so, and stories like you guys going out to community fairs or going to church don't get publicity. So, I mean, And honestly, how do you, and I have thick skin and I don't work in the media anymore, but how do you guys feel about the media and media coverage of police community relations? You can be honest.
I don't watch it.
You don't?
I don't watch news. I don't want to know.
I do.
I don't want to see all the bad that's out there because
Which is what the media hype,
I see enough of the bad on my own, and I have my own views and my own problems. But if I don't let that stuff affect me, the negative, then I can keep my own positive outlook on life. We're in a great community. There's a lot of positive stuff that goes on in Orem. There's a lot of businesses. There's a lot of people who care that are out there, and they're not getting recognition either.
Sure.
And they're not doing it for recognition. I'm not doing it for recognition. So if I just let the negative stay where it is, it's not going to affect me, and I can keep my own positive aspect, and I can just keep my own view to it and not worry about what everybody else is saying.
You were going to say you watch the news.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I like to be informed.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
He doesn't. He's putting his head in the sand here.
I'm relying on him.
No, I think anytime media companies in general, they have a business, and what sells, and we're inherently, as human beings, we want to see the stuff that's, whoa, look at that, you know.
Right.
And so that stuff does get publicized more.
Yeah.
It's going to. In some ways, it's actually beneficial, I think, in the law enforcement community, because it does sometimes it does force change among the law enforcement community. You brought up they shot an autistic person. Okay, that's an awful tragedy. However, I can tell you from the law enforcement side that completely changed how departments look at their mental health trainings and how they teach their officers to deal with autistic people, and how we had a little autistic girl that was missing, in the middle of the night, cold weather, nothing but her PJs on. She'd walked out the door. Mom and Dad had no idea, nonverbal. But we were able to locate her through our mental health response plans, and in her name screen says, she doesn't like loud noises. So I have to call fire to come check her out, paramedics to come check her out. Please don't come lights and sirens. Please come quiet, because I don't want to upset her. So I think we're evolving. Law enforcement in general is evolving into there's more out there than just that guy's being an a-hole, or that guy's acting out, or that guy's, maybe there's something behind that. Maybe there's a mental health issue, or maybe there's an addiction issue, or maybe you don't know what that is. But if you take 2 seconds and just think, how can I address this and de-escalate it and work through it calmly and get them calmed down, then we have less incidents, I believe.
I think on top of that, amongst all the other things, one of my favorite things is when you invited us to the training. I don't know exactly what it was for, but it was like an academy training, and they brought resources in. So all the police officers had to go around to each table to learn about the different resources in the area. That was probably one of my favorite events.
Yep, and that was new. It was part of our crisis intervention training that all of our officers have to go through, but most other agencies send people through that. And so this was a new thing. It was the first time we did it. It was at the graduation ceremony. Class is done. I can try to throw resources at you all day long. And a lot of the feedback we've got through numerous activities that we've done, our autism fair that we had in April, was bring the resources to us. Instead of me sitting to try to say, hey, I've got 12 different things, here you go, I brought those 12 things down. And that's what Cameron did. Cameron and I worked on that, right? We bring them. So now the officers get to go meet what we're talking about and who we're talking about. And then they've got the information firsthand and can decide then how they take it back to their agency and how they're going to use it.
Yeah, I asked SWAT to do a burpee challenge, but they were scared, so it's fine.
So would I be.
I would have liked to see that.
Yeah.
Be the one.
We're almost out of time. What it's boiling, I'm hearing from you guys, and kudos to you guys, is you're talking about one-on-one connections. It's basically what it boils down to, and the fact that you guys are human beings like we are and like the person out on the street is. And if you can connect that way, it works a lot more peacefully.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
So who came up with this brilliant idea?
He did.
No.
He did. Way to go. And you're changing perceptions about police, which is why we're interested in having you on a podcast that deals with people who are dealing with addiction. Because we actually brought some police officers into some of our residential houses, and it was like, everybody sits there, do you judge me because I have tattoos all over my face? That kind of stuff. So
Sure.
it was good. You guys are doing great work. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having
Yeah,
us.
for
thank
having
you
us.
so
Thank
much.
you for inviting them, Rachel.
You're welcome, Randall.
They didn't have to arrest anybody, and they spread goodwill. That's
Yeah,
great.
they let me arrest
We
them.
haven't
It's
left
fine.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for watching another edition of Odyssey House Journals.